Hello, friends. This is Robert Bevan, the author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're going to talk about the spell Vampiric Touch. All right, Sam, what are your initial thoughts on this spell?
Vampiric Touch sucks. This spell is, it's bad. It's a sad,
we're kind of
spell.
in agreement with this one.
Yeah,
I want to like it.
I did too, but it's just
anytime, even like with the like computer games and stuff. I'm a sucker for this kind of thing where I'm gonna hit somebody and I'm gonna get a little hit points back.
Yeah,
and that's gonna be my strategy, and it never works. It's not just this spell in this game. I don't know. I'm bad at picking strategies, maybe. It never seems to work out for me.
The whole dream of like draining someone's energy and using it for your own, the whole like vampiric aesthetic to it, right? That's the idea. I love me some edgelord characters. I love me some like super dark undead monster kind of stuff. And this is supposed to be that. It's like siphoning the vitality off of people and regaining your own fortitude. It's cool and metal.
Yeah,
and
thematically, I really like it.
But then you like have to try and use it, and boy, does it not deliver on what it promises. Just because the spell it works against itself. You have to jump through a ton of hoops to try and get it to work, and the payout is just so minimal. It feels impossible to justify. Like you could just be at this stage of the game, you could be using cantrips and doing relatively the same damage, and just be doing it from safety and not needing to make any spell attacks. Like it's hard to justify the spell's existence.
That's the trap of this spell. You're not using it for damage, you're using it for that sweet promise of draining and gaining hit points, and it doesn't really deliver well enough on that either.
Yeah, turns out like having to hit to get half of the damage dealt back means you're getting like a d6 and a half back, which is like 5-ish, 6-ish. It's not a lot of HP. And again, that means you have to like waddle up to the thing that you want to take the health from, which means you're probably getting hit. And in the classes Sorcerer, Warlock, Wizard, I mean, you can go frontline builds with those. Like you can be an Abjurer Wizard, you can be a Fiend, Pact of the Fiend Warlock, and like be aimed at trying to be combative. But the payout is a very small amount of hit points that you could have just not taken in the first place had you not engaged. And because you're engaging to regain hit points, that means you have to have already lost the hit points before engaging, which means you're casting this mid-combat, or you're casting it like on a second or third encounter, but it requires your concentration, so you want to have it not something you're already concentrating on most encounters. Like I can't figure out why you would want to use this in most circumstances. If you're fresh going into a fight and you want it for the HP gain, well, you have no HP to gain. You fresh going into the fight. So you can use it just for the damage then, but then you cast it and do the damage with it, don't get anything back even if you hit because you're at full. And then if you take the damage, you can break concentration and lose the spell entirely anyway. It's convoluted and messy and doesn't actually work in practice as far as delivering the draining fantasy that it definitely says it's selling.
Yeah. I did come up with a few instances where you might use it effectively, but they're not nice though. If you've got like a restrained opponent that can't fight back, that you could just beat some hit points out of them, or like go punch a cow.
Let's say you're playing an evil campaign, right? You could just have some tied up kobolds that you use as a life battery with Vampiric Touch. You can do that with this. That kind of logistical bookkeeping. I mean, there's more nonsense than Vampiric Touch restoring you to full that you can do with that. And you only get a minute of it. So 10 times half of 3d6. That's not a lot. That's like, again, 50-ish hit points. So even if we're talking like super evil game where you're okay with like, oh yeah, I'm going to the prison and just drain life up from all the prisoners or whatever, right? We're talking capital E evil here. It's not that effective whenever you could just take a short rest. Like on its best case scenario here, there's just other mechanics that heal you already. If this were an older edition and there was like, there's no healing on short rests or something, I don't know exactly how the rest systems worked back then, but maybe there's like some reason why that you would want healing in this fashion in the arcane casters, but it isn't practical or efficient. It's the numbers are bad across the board. You're always sad with this damage. You're casting a 3rd level spell to hope to get 3d6 damage to one target that you have to be in melee range of, which means the odds of this staying up more than 2 or 3 rounds is fairly low, and you're just like Firebolt is 8d6 for the same spell level. You can
same spell level, same classes. That's you're right. There's the only reason to use this is to be a dick.
Yeah, and it's not even like, again, there are better spells for that. I don't know what to tell you.
What about upcasting? Any good stuff there?
If you do upcast it, I mean, for a 4th, oh pardon, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, none of the damage ends up being all that much better. I think at 5th, getting 5d6 on an action, I mean, that's becoming closer to multi-attack. It's like if you're like a 9th level wizard and you have a 9th level fighter, the fighter with a greatsword can be doing like 46 plus 6, 46 plus 8 around, something like that. And you're doing 5d6 around if you hit and getting some HP back. You're not built for combat. Well, you can build for combat, but you're less likely to be as thick and ready for combat. That's kind of where we're at our best case scenario. If we start getting more multi-attacks in there, this just looks pitiful. And this costs you a resource, and the just regular greatsword attacks aren't costing them a resource. So like the damage you're getting out of it at upcasting is never even that much better. The HP you're getting back, again, half of 5d6 is not great. Like it's only 9 to 10-ish. You're going to be taking a lot more than that. And if you are taking damage, you're dropping concentration. So again, it fights against itself, where you want to be concentrating on something that wants you to be in melee range, that wants you to already be damaged, to then deal damage to receive hit points. It can't work like this. This iteration just doesn't function as is on the vast majority of people.
Yeah, I'm looking through the description now, trying to find some saving grace, but I just can't.
Yep, I mean, no material components, I guess. It only lasts a minute. I don't know. This one's rough. It eats your action too, so like you have to want to take a bad action. You have to want to make a melee spell attack that does 3d6 damage. Don't love that. Again, cantrips, like you could be acid splashing for 2d10 damage. I'm sorry, not acid splash. Poison spraying for 2d10 damage, and 2d10 and 3d6 is actually quite close. It's an average of 9 damage, or 10 damage on 2d6 and 11 damage on 2d10, or 3d6 and 11 damage on 2d10, right? So like a cantrip that is slightly longer range is doing slightly more damage and doesn't cost you a 3rd level spell slot. Oh, that's not a great place to start, because we don't talk about poison spray being a good spell. We don't. It's not, and this is worse than that. So if you want to be the super duper evil edgelord draining the life force from people in combat, it technically says you can do it this way. You can take things like shield, you can take things like false life if you're playing a warlock with fiendish vigor. You can take, if you're an abjurer wizard, you can have your little arcane ward to give you some temporary HP buff, and the rules around temp HP, I believe, mean you don't have to make concentration checks if it doesn't break the temp
actually,
HP.
Somebody argued with me about that today. I think you do have to make concentration checks.
You still make the concentration checks. Okay.
I think so.
There was a large Twitter thread, and Jeremy Crawford commented on something, and I didn't know the exact ruling, where we ended up. But in any case, like even with temp HP buffers and extra HP to keep you like sort of healthy in combat, you're still making concentration checks. Even take like Warcaster, you're still making concentration checks, and just one bad roll and you've lost the spell and you have to cast it again. Granted, when you get to at least take the action whenever you cast the spell, you get to make the attack. So you're not like, I cast the spell, I wait around, then I get to attack. You still get to at least make the attack that round. But we're scraping bottom of the barrel here to try and find nice things to say about this.
Yeah, you got any running on nice things? You got anything else crappy to say?
On villains, this can be fine on villains. Put this on a moderate vampire and like on the low tier, 3d6 isn't going to kill anyone at like 3rd or 4th level, but it'll do enough damage and gives them some healing, so it's a neat little challenge to solve. So like as a DM spell, this can be fine. That's really the only spot I see you wanting to ever use this. I don't think you should ever put it on your character sheet if you can make any other choice. And again, unless you're like really into this specific fantasy for some reason. But yeah, that can be the only recommendation I get. Try it out as some weird DM stuff if you're playing like a white monster kind of thing, something that sucks the life force of people. This facilitates that.
All right, well, I guess that's Vampiric Touch.
Yeah, it's kind of sucky.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all we got for you today. Thank you for listening and watching, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Yep.
Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, our full review of the spell, and other fun things.